The boarding gate buzzes with the familiar chaos of early morning travel. Passengers juggle coffee cups, wheel suitcases, and shuffle toward the jet bridge. The PA system hums overhead, calling out flight numbers and seat assignments. At the center of it all stands Elena Carter, dressed not in a flashy suit, but in simple, elegant business attire. She moves with quiet confidence, her natural curls pinned neatly, her posture commanding without a single word. To most passengers, she looks like any other traveler. Only a few know the truth. She is the CEO of Skylink Airlines, the very company operating this flight. Elena doesn't flaunt her title. She believes in showing up unannounced, seeing the company through the eyes of its customers. Today, she intends to fly economy, blending in, observing firsthand how her staff treats passengers. But not everyone sees her as a leader. Behind the counter, Captain Mark Reynolds watches with narrowed eyes. A veteran pilot with years of flying under his belt, he carries himself with arrogance more than authority. To him, respect is a one-way street, and his uniform makes him untouchable. When Elena approaches the boarding line, Mark's smirk widens. He bumps into her shoulder deliberately, muttering, "Watch where you're going." She pauses, steadying herself, then offers a polite, "Excuse me," but Mark isn't finished. He notices the coffee cup in her hand and sneers. "Figures. Always got your hands full, huh?" Passengers glance uneasily, sensing the tension. Elena takes a slow breath, unwilling to escalate. She knows the importance of composure. Mark, however, thrives on provocation. He steps closer, his voice dripping with disdain. "People like you always think you own the place. Guess what? On this plane, I do." Before she can respond, he tilts his own coffee cup, steaming hot, and deliberately pours it down the front of her blouse. Gasps ripple through the boarding gate. The crowd freezes, stunned. Elena flinches at the heat, clutching her shirt, but she doesn't stumble. She doesn't scream. Instead, she lifts her chin, her eyes locking on him with quiet fire. Passengers murmur, "Did he just—" He poured it on her. "That's the captain?" Mark shrugs casually, his smirk unbroken. "Accidents happen. Maybe you'll think twice before getting in my way again." Elena stands tall, her voice calm but cutting. "That wasn't an accident. That was arrogance." The gate agent rushes forward, flustered. "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need medical assistance?" Elena shakes her head slowly, wiping the coffee with a napkin. Her blouse is stained, her dignity tested, but her presence remains unshaken. Mark leans closer, still convinced of his superiority. "Better get used to it. Some people don't belong in first class or on my flights." The words hang heavy, dripping with venom. Passengers stare in disbelief, some raising their phones to record. Elena breathes deeply. She could reveal herself right now, end his career in a single sentence. But timing is everything. She straightens, her voice low but firm. "You just made the worst mistake of your career." Mark laughs dismissively, raising his cup again. "What, you gonna file a complaint? Good luck with that. I know how these things go. Nothing sticks to me." The gate falls silent, all eyes shifting between the captain and the woman he humiliated. Elena doesn't need to shout. She doesn't need to argue. She simply steps forward, her gaze steady. "You're right about one thing," she says. "This will stick. Just not the way you think." Mark frowns, his smirk faltering for the first time. Something in her tone unsettles him, but he masks it with another scoff. "Whatever. Just stay out of my way." He turns sharply, striding down the jet bridge, still convinced he's untouchable. Elena watches him go, her blouse soaked, her pride intact. Passengers whisper, recording, uploading. The story is already leaving the airport on wings faster than any plane. She adjusts her bag, wipes the last of the coffee, and mutters under her breath, "You'll learn soon enough." Because in a matter of minutes, the man who thought he owned the plane will learn the truth. She owns the airline, and the world will be watching. ChatGPT, Super O, halde hiç vakit kaybetmeden başlıyoruz. İşte bölüm 1 800 kelime. Chapter 1. The boarding gate buzzes with the familiar chaos of early morning travel. Passengers juggle coffee cups, wheel suitcases, and shuffle toward the jet bridge. The PA system hums overhead, calling out flight numbers and seat assignments. At the center of it all stands Elena Carter, dressed not in a flashy suit but in simple, elegant business attire. She moves with quiet confidence, her natural curls pinned neatly, her posture commanding without a single word. To most passengers, she looks like any other traveler. Only a few know the truth. She is the CEO of Skylink Airlines, the very company operating this flight. Elena doesn't flaunt her title. She believes in showing up unannounced, seeing the company through the eyes of its customers. Today, she intends to fly economy, blending in, observing firsthand how her staff treats passengers. But not everyone sees her as a leader. Behind the counter, Captain Mark Reynolds watches with narrowed eyes. A veteran pilot with years of flying under his belt, he carries himself with arrogance more than authority. To him, respect is a one-way street, and his uniform makes him untouchable. When Elena approaches the boarding line, Mark's smirk widens. He bumps into her shoulder deliberately, muttering, "Watch where you're going." She pauses, steadying herself, then offers a polite, "Excuse me." But Mark isn't finished. He notices the coffee cup in her hand and sneers. "Figures. Always got your hands full, huh?" Passengers glance uneasily, sensing the tension. Elena takes a slow breath, unwilling to escalate. She knows the importance of composure. Mark, however, thrives on provocation. He steps closer, his voice dripping with disdain. "People like you always think you own the place. Guess what? On this plane, I do." Before she can respond, he tilts his own coffee cup, steaming hot, and deliberately pours it down the front of her blouse. Gasps ripple through the boarding gate. The crowd freezes, stunned. Elena flinches at the heat, clutching her shirt, but she doesn't stumble. She doesn't scream. Instead, she lifts her chin, her eyes locking on him with quiet fire. Passengers murmur, "Did he just—" He poured it on her. "That's the captain?" Mark shrugs casually, his smirk unbroken. "Accidents happen. Maybe you'll think twice before getting in my way again." Elena stands tall, her voice calm but cutting. "That wasn't an accident, that was arrogance." The gate agent rushes forward, flustered. "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need medical assistance?" Elena shakes her head slowly, wiping the coffee with a napkin. Her blouse is stained, her dignity tested, but her presence remains unshaken. Mark leans closer, still convinced of his superiority. "Better get used to it. Some people don't belong in first class, or on my flights." The words hang heavy, dripping with venom. Passengers stare in disbelief, some raising their phones to record. Elena breathes deeply. She could reveal herself right now, end his career in a single sentence. But timing is everything. She straightens, her voice low but firm. "You just made the worst mistake of your career." Mark laughs dismissively, raising his cup again. "What, you gonna file a complaint? Good luck with that. I know how these things go. Nothing sticks to me." The gate falls silent, all eyes shifting between the captain and the woman he humiliated. Elena doesn't need to shout, she doesn't need to argue, she simply steps forward, her gaze steady. "You're right about one thing," she says. "This will stick, just not the way you think." Mark frowns, his smirk faltering for the first time. Something in her tone unsettles him, but he masks it with another scoff. "Whatever, just stay out of my way." He turns sharply, striding down the jet bridge, still convinced he's untouchable. Elena watches him go, her blouse soaked, her pride intact. Passengers whisper, recording, uploading. The story is already leaving the airport on wings faster than any plane. She adjusts her bag, wipes the last of the coffee, and mutters under her breath, "You'll learn soon enough." Because in a matter of minutes, the man who thought he owned the plane will learn the truth. She owns the airline. And the world will be watching. Bölüm 1. Tamamlandı. Yaklaşık 800 kelime, akış sağlam ve dramatik giriş yapıldı. İstersen hemen bölüm 2'ye geçeyim mi? Şunu dedin. Akışı bozmadan, anlam kaybı olmadan 800 kelime olacak şeklinde devam et. Lütfen ChatGPT. Tabii, hikayeyi aynı dramatik akışla sürdürüyorum. İşte bölüm 2. 800 kelime. Chapter 2. The boarding area remains frozen in shock. Passengers exchange stunned glances, some whispering, others tapping frantically at their phones. The video is already spreading. Captain Mark Reynolds, in full uniform, dousing a black woman in coffee and sneering at her as if she were nothing. Elena Carter doesn't react with rage. Instead, she wipes the last drops from her blouse with a napkin handed to her by a sympathetic passenger. The stain runs deep, but her posture never wavers. She offers the passenger a calm nod. "Thank you." Another traveler steps closer, voice low but urgent. "Ma'am, I caught it all on video. He can't get away with this." Elena glances at the screen, the footage crystal clear. The coffee spilling, Mark's cruel smirk, his venomous words. Evidence is powerful, but she knows her identity is even more so. Still, she keeps it hidden. Timing matters. The gate agent, pale and rattled, stammers nervously. "Captain Reynolds, he shouldn't have done that. I'm so sorry, ma'am." Elena gives a faint smile, though her eyes are cold. "You're right. He shouldn't have." Passengers murmur louder now, some furious, others disgusted. A man in a business suit shakes his head. "That's the captain? I don't want him flying my plane." Another woman mutters, "If he treats passengers like this, how's he treating the crew?" The discontent ripples outward. The gate is no longer just a waiting area. It's the stage for a scandal. Meanwhile, down the jet bridge, Mark settles into the cockpit. His co-pilot, First Officer Daniels, glances up uneasily. "What happened back there?" People looked upset. Mark waves it off with a laugh. "Some woman didn't know her place. Gave her a little lesson. Don't worry, it's nothing." Daniels frowns. "Still, I heard the commotion. It sounded serious." Mark snaps, irritation flashing. "Relax, she's probably one of those types. Always ready to cry victim. Trust me, I've been here long enough. Nothing will touch me." But for the first time, doubt flickers in his co-pilot's eyes. Back at the gate, boarding continues, though passengers step onto the plane with hesitation. Whispers trail behind them. "That's the guy? He shouldn't be flying. Someone needs to report this." Elena waits until the final group is called. She's in economy by choice, ticket booked under an alias to avoid attention. When her row is announced, she steps forward, her coffee-stained blouse catching every camera. Passengers part to let her through, some nodding in solidarity, others muttering words of encouragement. As she walks down the jet bridge, her phone buzzes. Messages flood in from board members and executives. They've already seen the video. Some urge her to reveal herself immediately, to fire Mark on the spot. But Elena remains calm. She knows the value of letting arrogance run its course. She steps onto the aircraft. The flight attendants greet her warmly, unaware of her role as their ultimate boss. She offers them a polite smile, sliding into her seat near the middle of the cabin. Moments later, Mark's voice crackles over the intercom. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. We'll be taking off shortly for our flight to Chicago. Sit back, relax, and let's have a smooth ride." His tone is practiced, professional. No hint of the venom he spat only minutes ago. But in the cabin, passengers exchange knowing glances. Some roll their eyes. Others whisper angrily. Elena leans back in her seat, her expression unreadable. She can feel the weight of dozens of eyes on her, the woman humiliated by the very man flying the plane. Yet she doesn't flinch. As the plane taxis down the runway, she whispers under her breath, "Fly steady, Captain, because soon you'll be grounded for good." The engines roar, the plane lifts into the sky. Passengers settle in, but the tension lingers. Phones buzz quietly as the video uploads, already gathering thousands of views. By the time they reach cruising altitude, the story has left the airport. It's racing across social media, spilling onto news feeds, igniting fury in every corner of the country. In the cockpit, Mark smirks, oblivious to the storm he has unleashed. He believes he is untouchable, that the uniform shields him, but arrogance is blind. And at 35,000 feet, he doesn't yet know the truth, that the woman he tried to break is the one person in the world who holds his career, his reputation, and his future in her hands. Elena Carter, CEO of Skylink Airlines, sits quietly in row 14, her blouse stained but her resolve unshaken. And when this plane lands, Mark Reynolds will learn that his arrogance just cost him everything. The cabin lights dim slightly as the plane levels at cruising altitude. Flight attendants move through the aisles, offering drinks and snacks. Most passengers settle into their routines, earbuds, laptops, quiet conversation, but the tension from the boarding gate hasn't faded. Elena Carter sits quietly in her seat, her blouse still marked by the coffee stain. Every so often, she notices passengers glancing her way, their expressions sympathetic, even protective. A woman across the aisle leans over. "I saw what he did back there," she whispers. "It was disgusting. I filmed it too. If you need the video, I'll send it." Elena offers a faint smile. "Thank you. Keep it safe. It'll matter soon." The woman nods, sensing that Elena's calm is not weakness, but something deeper, an authority unspoken. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, Captain Mark Reynolds stretches back in his chair, arrogance radiating. He takes a long sip of water and chuckles to himself. You see the look on her face, Daniels? She couldn't even fight back. That's what happens when people forget who's in charge up here, though. First Officer Daniels doesn't respond immediately. His eyes remain fixed on the instrument panel. Finally, he says quietly, "Mark, you crossed a line. Passengers were watching. Phones were recording. You can't just—" Mark cuts him off sharply. "Don't lecture me. I've been in this job 15 years. Nothing sticks. You'll learn." Daniels clenches his jaw but says nothing. Still, unease coils in his chest. He knows arrogance like Mark's has a way of crashing harder than any plane. Back in the cabin, flight attendants wheel the cart closer to Elena's row. One of them pauses, her eyes flicking to the stain on Elena's blouse. Concern flashes across her face. "Ma'am, did something happen at the gate?" Elena answers calmly. "Something did, and soon everyone will know." The attendant hesitates, sensing layers in her words she doesn't yet understand, then nods politely and moves on. Passengers murmur softly, some scrolling their phones. The video from the gate has already begun circulating online. A young man a few rows back whispers to his friend, "Look, it's going viral. 10,000 views already." By the time they cross into midair, the number triples. Hashtags bloom, hashtag coffee, captain, hashtag Skylink scandal, hashtag justice. For her. Mark remains blissfully unaware. In his mind, the uniform shields him from consequences. But Elena knows better. She's seen arrogance topple giants before. She leans back in her seat, her mind already working. She doesn't need to raise her voice or reveal herself mid-flight. Timing is everything. The reveal must be public, undeniable, inescapable. Hours later, as the plane begins its descent toward Chicago, the tension in the cabin tightens. Passengers check their phones again, shocked at the flood of coverage. News outlets have already picked up the story. Airline captain accused of assault at gate. Clips of Mark sneering as coffee spills on Elena play across every feed. Whispers ripple through the cabin. "That's him, right? The pilot? Unbelievable. He's flying us right now. He's finished when this lands." Elena remains still, her hands folded neatly, her expression composed. She feels the shift, power tilting, arrogance unraveling. The wheels touch down with a jolt. Passengers clap half-heartedly, their applause muted by the scandal hanging in the air. As the plane taxis to the gate, phones buzz with notifications. Headlines spread faster than luggage on a carousel. When the seatbelt sign dings off, passengers rise quickly, chattering in low, furious tones. A group near the front glances back at Elena, their expressions full of solidarity. The cockpit door opens. Mark steps into the aisle, his smirk firmly in place. "Thank you for flying with us today. Have a great—" His words choke off. Dozens of phones rise, cameras pointed squarely at him. Passengers glare, some shouting, "We saw what you did! You should be ashamed!" Mark stiffens, his smirk faltering. He tries to brush it off. "Folks, don't believe everything you see online. People twist things." But then Elena stands. She smooths her stained blouse, steps into the aisle, and faces him head-on. Her voice is calm, yet it carries through the cabin like thunder. "You don't need to explain. You need to listen." Mark blinks, thrown off balance. "And who are you to tell me—" Elena cuts him off, her eyes unflinching. "I'm Elena Carter, CEO of Skylink Airlines. This is my plane, my crew, my company, and you just poured coffee on your boss." Gasps explode through the cabin. Passengers freeze, their phones capturing every second. Whispers ripple. "She's the CEO? No way! He's finished." Mark's face drains of color. His smirk collapses into stunned silence. "You're— what? That's—" Elena takes a single step closer, her presence filling the space. "You wanted to remind me of my place? Let me remind you of yours. You're grounded, effective immediately." The cabin erupts in cheers. Passengers applaud, some chanting her name. Cameras flash, phones record, the moment exploding across the internet in real time. Mark stumbles backward, his authority stripped away in a single sentence. Elena turns to the passengers, her voice steady. "Thank you for your patience today. I promise you, Skylink Airlines will not tolerate arrogance in uniform. Not now. Not ever." The applause grows louder, chants rising like a wave. And as Mark is escorted off the plane in humiliation, Elena Carter knows the truth has finally landed. The moment Elena Carter speaks her title, the cabin transforms. What had been whispers of disbelief become an uproar of vindication. Passengers cheer, clap, and thrust their phones higher, eager to capture every second of Mark Reynolds' downfall. The once arrogant pilot stares at her as though the floor has vanished beneath his feet. His mouth opens, then closes. Words fail him. The smirk that carried him through years of unchecked arrogance dissolves into pure panic. Flight attendants, stunned but empowered, exchange quick glances. One steps forward, her voice steady. "Captain Carter, would you like us to remove him from the aircraft?" Elena nods calmly. "Yes, he is relieved of duty effective immediately." The cabin erupts with applause again. Passengers chant her name. "Elena! Elena! Elena!" Their voices rolling like thunder through the narrow fuselage. Mark tries to salvage his pride, his voice cracking. "This is insane! You can't just—" Elena cuts him off with a look sharp enough to silence the cabin. "I can. And I just did." "You're finished, Reynolds." Security meets the plane at the gate. Cameras catch every second as Mark is escorted down the aisle. Stripped of his authority, his arrogance reduced to nothing more than a pathetic shuffle. Outside, reporters are already waiting. The story has spread so fast that news crews crowd the jet bridge, microphones thrust forward, flashes blinding. Mark tries to cover his face, but it's too late. His humiliation is global now. Inside the cabin, Elena remains seated, composed, letting the storm rage outside. Passengers approach her, gratitude in their voices. "Thank you for standing up to him. He made us all uncomfortable. You showed him his place." "My daughter will never forget this. She saw you hold your ground." Elena offers each a small, sincere smile. "You deserve respect when you fly with us. That's my promise as your CEO." When she finally steps off the plane, the terminal erupts in chaos. Reporters flood forward, microphones outstretched. "Ms. Carter, what happened on board? How long has Captain Reynolds been employed here? Do you believe this incident reflects deeper problems in the airline industry?" Elena pauses, facing the cameras. Her voice is calm, measured. "Today was about more than spilled coffee. It was about respect. When someone in uniform abuses their position, it doesn't just stain a shirt, it stains the trust of every passenger. At Skylink Airlines, that will never be tolerated. Captain Reynolds is suspended pending termination. And let me be clear, arrogance has no seat in this company." The crowd roars. Passengers cheer. The footage spreads like wildfire, already hitting primetime news. That evening, Elena sits in a quiet corner of the executive lounge, her phone buzzing non-stop. Messages flood in, board members praising her decisiveness, employees thanking her, strangers calling her a hero. Leonard, her trusted advisor, finally joins her, setting a folder on the table. "The board is fully behind you. They saw the footage. They heard your words. You handled it perfectly." Elena sips her tea, exhaustion tugging at her shoulders. "It shouldn't have taken this much to prove a point. Respect should be automatic." Leonard leans back. "True, but sometimes it takes a storm to clear the skies." Across the city, Mark Reynolds slams his fists on a hotel desk, rage boiling. His lawyer tries to calm him. "Mark, the video's everywhere. You're trending worldwide. Fighting this will only make it worse." Mark snarls. "She humiliated me in front of the whole world. She thinks she's untouchable because she's CEO. This isn't over." But deep down, he knows it is. His career is in freefall, his reputation destroyed before millions. Meanwhile, Elena prepares for the next day. She knows the cameras will still follow her, the questions will grow sharper, and critics will emerge. But she also knows the truth. She stood tall, and the world saw it. Later that night, she steps outside the terminal into the cool air. Protesters have gathered, not against her, but for her. Signs wave, "Respect in the skies," "Stand with Elena," "End arrogance in uniform." The chants roll through the night. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" Elena pauses, letting the sound wash over her. She whispers softly to herself, "Not just justice, dignity." Back in the terminal, reporters continue their live broadcasts. One anchor concludes, "Today, an airline CEO showed the world that leadership doesn't hide behind offices or titles." Elena Carter sat quietly in row 14, endured humiliation, and then revealed the truth at the perfect moment. Tonight, she's not just the leader of Skylink Airlines. She's the voice of respect in the skies. And as the cameras cut away, Elena Carter knows the turbulence isn't over. Mark Reynolds may be grounded, but the storm of arrogance in the skies is bigger than one man. She steels herself, ready for the battles yet to come, because when the world doubts you, the only answer is to keep standing and to keep flying higher. By morning, Elena Carter's name dominates every headline. News outlets call her the undercover CEO who grounded arrogance at 35,000 feet. Social media explodes with hashtags. #Elena Carter, #respect in the skies, and #coffee captain. Clips of her reveal play on a loop. The calm declaration, "I'm Elena Carter, CEO of Skylink Airlines," followed by the roar of applause as Mark Reynolds crumbled before the cameras. Elena sits in the executive suite at Skylink headquarters, her blouse crisp, her posture calm, though fatigue lingers in her eyes. Across the long conference table, board members argue heatedly. This went viral overnight. The brand is exploding. People are calling us the most transparent airline in the industry. Yes, but we need to get ahead of this. One captain's arrogance can't define us. Passengers trust Elena. We need to capitalize on that trust. Elena raises her hand, silencing the chatter. Her voice is steady. This is not about capitalizing. This is about accountability. If one captain can act like that in uniform, it means the system allowed it. We don't patch this with PR. We fix it with reform. The room falls quiet. Her authority isn't loud but absolute. Leonard, sitting beside her, slides a folder across the table. We've already drafted measures: mandatory sensitivity training, zero-tolerance policies, new reporting channels for passengers and crew. We'll announce them today. Elena nods. Good. But it must come from me, not a press release, not a spokesperson, me. The board members exchange looks, some uneasy. One finally asks, "Elena, are you sure? You've already been through so much. You don't owe the public more." She meets his gaze firmly. "I don't owe the public silence. I owe them respect." Meanwhile, Mark Reynolds sits in a lawyer's office downtown, his career in ashes. His lawyer reads from a stack of termination documents. "They're offering you severance if you resign quietly. But after that video, Mark, you'll never fly commercially again." Mark's jaw tightens, his pride choking him. "So she wins? She humiliates me, ruins me, and I just vanish?" The lawyer sighs. "You did that to yourself." Mark slams his fist on the desk. "No, she set me up. She wanted this, and I won't let her end me without a fight." Back at headquarters, Elena steps into a press conference. Cameras flash instantly, reporters crowding forward. She takes the podium, her calm presence silencing the chaos. Yesterday, a Skylink captain poured coffee on a passenger and demeaned her in front of witnesses. That passenger was me. I revealed my position as CEO not for drama, but because accountability starts at the top. Let me be clear, this company will not tolerate arrogance in uniform. Not from captains, not from anyone. Reporters scribble furiously. Cameras zoom close. Elena continues. "Today, we are instituting sweeping reforms, mandatory respect and inclusion training, new reporting channels, independent oversight. Every passenger, every employee deserves dignity in our skies. That is our standard, starting now." Applause breaks from the audience, unusual for a press conference. Reporters shout questions, but Elena raises her hand. "This is not about me. This is about respect, and Skylink will lead by example." By evening, the clip floods every network. Passengers praise her decisiveness. Advocacy groups call her a trailblazer. Shareholders watch the stock climb, but not everyone cheers. In online forums, whispers spread, threads accusing Elena of staging the incident for publicity, of exploiting the moment. Many dismiss it, but the whispers are seeded by none other than Mark Reynolds and his allies. In her office, Leonard shows her the chatter. "They're trying to twist it, paint you as the villain." Elena leans back, her gaze steady. "Then they underestimate me again. Lies are just turbulence. Truth flies higher." That night, she returns home for the first time in weeks. Her sister Maya greets her with open arms. "You've been on every screen in the country. I'm proud of you." Elena allows herself a rare smile, hugging her tightly. "I'm just doing what should have been done all along." But even as she rests, the storm gathers. Mark Reynolds, cornered and disgraced, begins plotting his counterattack. Not with fists, but with whispers, with shadows, with lies. Elena Carter knows the fight isn't over. She can feel it in her bones. But she also knows one truth. She's weathered storms before, and no smear, no sabotage will silence her now. The sky belongs to her, and soon the world will know it. The following week, Elena Carter becomes more than a CEO, she becomes a national figure. Morning shows invite her for interviews, newspapers call her the voice of dignity in the skies, and activists frame her story as proof that arrogance in uniform can't go unchecked. But Elena doesn't bask in the attention. She returns to work with focus, determined to turn outrage into action. In the boardroom, she outlines her next steps. "We've announced reforms," she says, pacing slowly. "Now we implement them. That means monitoring, accountability, and consequences, not just words on paper." Leonard flips through a binder of proposals. "We're rolling out sensitivity and inclusion training across all departments. Independent auditors will review passenger complaints. We're also creating an anonymous hotline for staff." One board member raises a concern. "Elena, this is unprecedented. The unions might push back. Some pilots will claim you're attacking them." Elena's eyes sharpen. "I'm not attacking anyone who does their job with respect. But if a uniform makes someone think they're untouchable, then yes, they should feel attacked." The room falls silent. Even her critics can't argue with her clarity. Meanwhile, across town, Mark Reynolds broods in the shadows of a lawyer's office. His once pristine reputation lies in ruins. News anchors mock him nightly, memes flood the internet, and passengers cheer his downfall. Yet his pride burns hotter than his shame. "They want me gone?" he snarls. "Fine, but I'll drag her down with me." His lawyer shakes his head. "Mark, every move you make only makes her stronger. Walk away before it gets worse." But Mark can't walk away. His arrogance is an anchor pulling him deeper. Back at Skylink headquarters, Elena faces her employees for the first time since the scandal. The auditorium is full. Pilots, attendants, mechanics, staff, all waiting to hear her speak. Cameras broadcast live to every base in the country. She steps to the podium, calm but commanding. "Many of you saw what happened. A captain humiliated a passenger and thought his uniform made him untouchable. That was wrong. Not because the passenger was me, but because no passenger deserves that treatment, ever." Applause breaks out, spreading through the room. Elena continues. "Respect isn't optional. It isn't something we turn on for VIPs and turn off for everyone else. It is the baseline. And if anyone believes they can fly above that standard, let me be clear, you will be grounded." The applause grows louder, filling the hall. Flight attendants nod, mechanics clap, even some pilots stand. Elena's words ripple outward, undeniable. But not all faces are approving. A small group of senior captains sit stiffly, their expressions sour. One mutters under his breath, "She's turning this place upside down." Another answers, "And she's not done yet." After the meeting, Leonard joins Elena backstage. That speech wasn't just policy, it was fire. They'll remember it. Elena exhales, adjusting her jacket. They need to, because respect only sticks if it becomes culture. Outside headquarters, reporters swarm again. Questions fly, cameras roll. One asks, "Ms. Carter, do you worry about backlash from employees who think you're going too far?" Elena answers smoothly, "If treating people with dignity feels like too far, then yes, I hope they feel the distance." The clip spreads instantly, another viral moment cementing her stance. That night, Elena returns to her penthouse apartment, exhaustion pressing down. Her sister Maya greets her with takeout containers. "You need real food, not just coffee and speeches." Elena chuckles softly, settling onto the couch. "You sound like Mom." Maya smiles sadly. "Mom would be proud. You turned humiliation into something powerful." Elena stares out the window at the city lights. Pride isn't the goal, change is. Meanwhile, in the dark corners of the internet, new threads appear. Edited clips of Elena's speeches surface, twisted to paint her as anti-pilot, anti-police, anti-authority. Anonymous accounts spread the lies, but their origin traces back to the same place, Mark Reynolds and his allies. Leonard calls her late at night, his voice tense. "They're coming after your image now, not just you as CEO, but you as a person. Smear campaigns. They're trying to make the world doubt you." Elena listens quietly, then answers, steady as ever. "Doubt is just turbulence, and I've flown through worse." She hangs up, staring at her medal pinned to the wall. Her reflection in the glass shows a woman tired but unbroken. Elena Carter knows the storm hasn't ended. It's only changed shape, and if Mark Reynolds wants to fight in the shadows, she'll meet him there, with truth as her weapon and justice as her flight path. Because the sky doesn't belong to arrogance. It belongs to those who keep standing, no matter how hard the winds blow. The smear campaign escalates overnight. Edited clips of Elena Carter's speeches flood social media, cutting her words into twisted fragments. One video falsely suggests she called all pilots arrogant. Another paints her reforms as anti-police. Within hours, hashtags appear. #Carter Agenda, #boycott Skylink. Leonard bursts into her office the next morning, dropping a stack of printouts onto her desk. They're everywhere. News blogs, comment sections, fake accounts. Mark's fingerprints are all over this. He can't fight you in the light, so he's hiding in the shadows. Elena leans back in her chair, calm despite the storm. Let him. Shadows only exist until the sun rises. Still, she knows Leonard is right. Lies spread faster than truth. And while supporters chant her name, critics are beginning to question. Later that afternoon, Elena meets with her communications team. Screens flash with headlines, half praising, half condemning. A young staffer looks up nervously. Ms. Carter, should we issue a statement, deny the accusations? Fight fire with fire? Elena shakes her head. We don't waste time denying lies. We drown them with truth. Book me for every live interview you can find. I want no edits, no cuts. The people deserve my voice, not a headline. Her decisiveness steadies the room. Within hours, she's scheduled for 3 primetime interviews. Meanwhile, Mark Reynolds sits hunched in a dim bar, his phone glowing with satisfaction. His allies chuckle around him, watching the chaos unfold online. She's slipping, one says. The more doubt we spread, the more cracks appear. Mark smirks, sipping his drink. She thinks she's invincible, but every empire falls, and when hers does, I'll be there to watch. But arrogance blinds him. What he doesn't see is how his smear campaign is also galvanizing her supporters. That evening, Elena sits under bright studio lights, a live audience buzzing around her. The host leans forward, the cameras rolling. Ms. Carter, some say you've turned this airline into a political movement. They claim your reforms are an attack on authority. How do you respond? Elena doesn't flinch. Her voice is steady, her tone sharp. Respect is not political. Dignity is not negotiable. If demanding accountability feels like an attack, then maybe authority needs to question itself. The audience bursts into applause. The clip hits social media instantly, dismantling hours of lies in seconds. The next morning, newspapers carry her words as headlines. Respect is not political. Carter strikes back. But the storm hasn't passed. Online trolls push harder, feeding conspiracy theories, painting Elena as power-hungry. In her office, Leonard scrolls grimly through the mess. They won't stop. Even with the truth, they'll keep coming. Elena pours herself a glass of water, her posture unshaken. Then neither will we. She spends the day meeting with employees, pilots, attendants, ground crews. Face to face, she listens. She reassures, she reminds them, this company is about people, all of us, and no smear will change that. Her presence steadies them. By the end of the week, Skylink's staff stand behind her more firmly than ever, but her enemies aren't finished. In a hidden forum, Mark and his allies post leaked documents, outdated emails, minor complaints, twisted to make Elena look corrupt. The posts spread quickly, sowing new doubts. Leonard storms into her apartment late at night, laptop in hand. They're leaking files now. If we don't stop this, they'll rewrite your entire story. Elena sets down her tea, her eyes steady. Then we make sure the real story is louder. Call the board. Tomorrow I speak to the nation, not as a victim, as a leader. The next day, she steps onto a massive stage outside Skylink headquarters. Thousands of employees and passengers gather, candles in hand, chanting her name. Cameras broadcast live nationwide. Elena raises her hand, silencing the crowd. Her voice rings out. Lies spread quickly, but truth endures. They want you to believe I'm corrupt, arrogant, unworthy. But the truth is in this crowd. In every employee who treats passengers with dignity, in every protester who chants for justice, in every child who dreams of flying higher. She pauses, letting the words settle. Mark Reynolds thought coffee would stain me. His allies think lies will break me, but storms don't ground me, they lift me higher. The crowd erupts, chants thundering, "Justice! Justice! Justice!" Mark, watching from a dingy motel room, hurls his glass at the screen, fury twisting his face. Why won't she fall? But Elena doesn't fall. She stands taller, her voice carrying across the city, across the nation, because dignity cannot be drowned in coffee, and truth cannot be silenced by lies. The sun rises over Riverton with a strange mix of triumph and tension. Elena Carter's speech outside Skylink headquarters dominates every network. News anchors call it a masterclass in leadership, supporters flood the streets with chants of her name, and her words, "Storms don't ground me, they lift me higher," trend as a rallying cry across the nation. But beneath the celebration, the smear campaign festers. Online forums twist her quotes into fabrications. Bloggers spread conspiracy theories, and anonymous accounts flood comment sections with venom. Elena knows the battle isn't over. She sits in her office that morning, sipping coffee slowly, her blouse crisp, her posture calm. Leonard bursts in, carrying a tablet. "Elena, they've escalated. Someone leaked false financial documents. They're claiming you funneled money into shell companies. It's fake, but it looks real enough to spark headlines." Elena sets her cup down carefully. "And who do you think is behind it?" Leonard doesn't hesitate. "Mark Reynolds, or his friends. He's too bitter to quit. This is him trying to claw back power." Elena nods, her face unflinching. "Then we confront it head on. Call a press conference. Today." By afternoon, reporters cram into Skylink's media room. Cameras point, pens hover, whispers ripple. Elena steps onto the stage, every inch of her presence commanding. "You've seen stories accusing me of corruption," she begins, her voice calm. "Let me make this clear. Those documents are fabricated. Lies designed to distract us from what truly matters: respect, dignity, and reform." She holds up a folder. "Here are the real financials, audited independently, transparent, verifiable. The truth does not fear scrutiny." Reporters murmur, scribbling furiously. Elena leans closer to the podium. "This is bigger than one airline. This is about trust. If lies can shake us, then truth must be louder. And I promise you, truth will always take the higher flight path." Applause breaks, unusual in a press briefing. The clip hits primetime, dismantling much of the smear before it takes root. But across town, in a dingy motel room, Mark Reynolds fumes as he watches. His allies pace behind him. One mutters, "She's stronger than we thought. Every hit we throw makes her look untouchable." Mark slams his fist on the table. "Nobody's untouchable. Not her, not anyone. We just need to strike harder. Find something real." The others exchange uneasy looks, but Mark's pride drives him deeper. Meanwhile, Elena attends a meeting with lawmakers in Chicago. They want her input on a federal aviation reform bill. The committee chair greets her warmly. "Ms. Carter, your story sparked this momentum. The nation is listening. Tell us, what changes do we need?" Elena's voice is calm but fierce. "Accountability at every level. Cameras in cockpits, independent oversight boards, mandatory training in respect and inclusion. Flying is not just about machines, it's about people, and people deserve dignity." The lawmakers nod, scribbling notes. One leans forward. "You realize, Ms. Carter, your words here will shape national policy." Elena meets his gaze firmly. "Then let them shape a future worth flying toward." That night, Leonard joins her in her hotel suite, exhaustion heavy in his eyes. "Elena, you're winning every battle, but I need to ask, when does it end? When do you let go?" Elena gazes out the window at the glowing skyline. "It ends when respect isn't questioned, when arrogance isn't tolerated. Until then, I don't stop." Leonard sighs, but he can't argue. He knows her resolve is unbreakable. Across the country, protests swell. Passengers chant her name, employees rally behind her reforms, and families hold signs reading, "Fly like Elena." But in the shadows, Mark's allies whisper darker plans. One mutters, "If we can't ruin her name, maybe we ruin her safety." A scare. Something big enough to shake her. Another hesitates. She's too protected. Cameras everywhere, crowds always around her. Mark leans forward, his voice dripping with venom. "Then we wait, we watch, and when the moment comes, we strike where no one expects." Back in her suite, Elena removes her uniform jacket and hangs it neatly, her nightly ritual. She stares at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes are tired, but her posture is unyielding. She whispers softly, "One more storm, Captain. Always one more." Her phone buzzes. A message from her sister Maya. "Don't forget you're human. Don't carry this alone." Elena types back, "I'm not alone. I have voices with me." Outside, the chants rise again, echoing into the night. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" And Elena Carter, steady as ever, braces for the battles still circling the skies. Because storms may change shape, but they never ground her. They only lift her higher. The days after Elena Carter's testimony in Chicago blur into a whirlwind of travel, interviews, and speeches. She is no longer just the CEO of Skylink Airlines, she is the face of a national movement. Supporters chant her name at rallies, lawmakers invite her into closed-door meetings, and headlines call her the woman who turned humiliation into history. But the higher she flies, the more turbulent the winds become. One morning, Leonard enters her office with a grim expression, a folder tucked under his arm. "Elena, you need to see this." She sets down her coffee, opening the folder. Inside are screenshots, dozens of posts from anonymous accounts, spreading new lies. Claims that she doctored her own boarding pass to stage the coffee incident. False stories suggesting she has a vendetta against white pilots. Even manipulated photos making her look angry, aggressive. Elena flips through calmly, her face unreadable. "They're doubling down." Leonard nods. Mark Reynolds isn't hiding anymore. He's giving quiet interviews under the table, feeding them sound bites. He's trying to rewrite the story. Elena exhales slowly. "Then we don't let him. Book me for a town hall, live audience, no edits." That evening, Elena stands on stage at a packed auditorium. Cameras broadcast nationwide, but she doesn't speak to the lenses. She speaks to the people. "You've seen the lies, you've heard the whispers, but let me tell you the truth. I didn't stage humiliation. I endured it, and I didn't endure it for publicity. I endured it because arrogance in uniform thought I didn't belong. That arrogance is what we are fighting, not pilots, not police, not uniforms. Arrogance. And arrogance has no place in the skies." The crowd erupts in applause, the chant swelling, "Elena! Elena! Elena!" Across the city, Mark Reynolds watches from a dim motel room, his fists clenching. "She twists everything into a victory," he growls. His allies shift uncomfortably, realizing that each attack seems only to make her stronger. Back at Skylink headquarters, Elena pushes reforms forward. New codes of conduct roll out, training sessions launch, anonymous hotlines buzz with staff ready to speak up. For the first time, employees feel heard. A flight attendant approaches her in the hallway, eyes brimming. "Ms. Carter, thank you. I've been working here 15 years, and this is the first time I feel like we matter." Elena smiles softly. "You always mattered. Now the system will show it." But victory comes with weight. Late one night, Elena sits alone in her penthouse, staring out at the city lights. Her sister Maya calls, concern in her voice. "Elena, you sound tired." "I am," Elena admits quietly. "Every day is another battle. Lies, threats, whispers. Sometimes it feels endless." Maya's voice softens. "But you're not fighting alone. You've got people behind you, thousands, maybe millions. Don't forget that." Elena closes her eyes, her whisper steady. "I know. That's why I can't stop." Meanwhile, Mark escalates his campaign. He leaks a fake memo claiming Elena plans to fire veteran pilots in favor of political hires. The story trends briefly, stirring outrage among some employee groups. But when reporters press her, Elena dismantles the lie in seconds. "Skylink doesn't fire based on politics. We fire based on arrogance. And if that makes some uncomfortable, so be it." The clip goes viral, once again flipping the smear into strength, but Elena senses the stakes rising. Each attack grows bolder, each lie sharper. In the shadows, Mark's allies whisper of bigger moves. One mutters, "If smears don't break her, maybe fear will." Another shakes his head. "Every scare only makes her louder." Mark leans forward, his eyes burning. "Then we don't scare her. We break the people around her. We hit where she least expects." Back in her office, Elena pores over reform proposals. Leonard enters, his voice tired but resolute. "The federal bill is gaining momentum. They want you in Washington next week to testify before Congress." Elena looks up, steady. "Then that's where I'll be." Leonard hesitates. "It'll be bigger than anything so far, the whole nation watching. And Mark's allies will see it as their last chance to stop you." Elena stands, her resolve unshaken. "Then let them watch. Let them try. Because justice doesn't hide. It flies." That night, she gazes at the medal pinned on her wall. Her reflection stares back. Tired, weathered, but unbroken. She whispers softly, "One more storm, Captain. Always one more." Outside, protesters march with candles, their chants rising through the streets. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" And Elena Carter, steady as ever, prepares to carry the fight from the skies to the halls of power. Because storms may shift, but they never ground her. They only lift her higher. Washington, D.C. hums with restless energy. News vans line the streets near Capitol Hill, their satellite dishes aimed skyward. Reporters rehearse live shots, protesters wave signs, and police tighten barricades. The nation is bracing for a moment it hasn't seen before. A CEO testifying before Congress not about profits, but about dignity. Elena Carter sits in the back of a black SUV, her uniform crisp, her medal pinned to her lapel. Leonard sits beside her, flipping through a binder thick with notes. The committee will try to rattle you, he warns. Some will praise you, some will accuse you of grandstanding. They'll want sound bites. Don't give them anything but the truth. Elena gazes out the window at the Capitol dome, glowing in the morning sun. The truth is all I have, and all I need. When they arrive, cameras swarm instantly, microphones thrust forward, reporters shout questions. Ms. Carter, what will you say today? Do you believe Congress is ready to act? Are you afraid of more backlash? Elena raises her chin, her voice steady. I'm here to speak for respect, and respect doesn't fear questions. Inside, the hearing room is packed. Lawmakers sit in rows, staffers shuffle papers, cameras roll live nationwide. Protesters' chants echo faintly from outside. Justice, justice, justice! The chairman gavels the session to order. Today we address systemic issues in aviation and public service, sparked by the incident involving Captain Elena Carter. Ms. Carter, thank you for joining us. Please proceed with your statement. Elena rises, adjusting the microphone. Her voice carries, calm but firm. My name is Elena Carter. I am the CEO of Skylink Airlines. Months ago, I sat in row 14 of my own flight, dressed like any passenger. I was humiliated by a captain who believed his uniform made him untouchable. He poured coffee on me, mocked me, and told me I didn't belong. That man is no longer flying, but the arrogance he carried did not begin or end with him. It is part of a culture that excuses disrespect until it is caught on camera. Murmurs ripple through the chamber. Reporters scribble furiously. Elena continues, I am not here for vengeance. I am here for reform. Every passenger deserves dignity. Every employee deserves respect. That means mandatory body cameras in cockpits, independent oversight of complaints, and training that puts humanity above arrogance. This isn't political, it's personal. For every person who has ever felt small at 35,000 feet. Applause breaks from the gallery, unusual for a congressional hearing. The chairman bangs his gavel, but even he can't hide a faint smile. Then the questioning begins. A sympathetic senator leans forward. Ms. Carter, what would you say to the passengers who filmed that day? Do you believe their actions helped bring us here? Elena nods. Yes. Their courage to press record turned humiliation into evidence. Without them, it would have been my word against his. Passengers proved that silence is the shield of arrogance, and truth is louder. But not all lawmakers are friendly. A congressman clears his throat, his tone sharp. Ms. Carter, some argue you've turned a personal grievance into a nationwide crusade. That this is less about reform and more about you elevating yourself. How do you respond? Elena doesn't flinch. She leans into the microphone. If standing for respect elevates me, then I hope every citizen is elevated with me. Because this is not about me, it is about every traveler, every worker, every voice silenced by arrogance. If that looks like a crusade, then it's one worth fighting. The room buzzes, applause rising again. The congressman shifts uncomfortably, realizing his jab has backfired. After hours of testimony, Elena leaves the chamber into a storm of cameras. Reporters shout, protesters cheer, hashtags explode across social media. Clips of her sharp responses flood the internet within minutes. That night, news anchors frame her testimony as historic. One calls her the Rosa Parks of the skies. Another dubs her America's CEO of justice. But across the city, in a hidden motel, Mark Reynolds seethes as he watches. His allies whisper nervously. Every time she speaks, she grows stronger. She's untouchable now. Mark slams his glass on the table, shards scattering. Nobody's untouchable. She may have Congress now, but storms always shift. And when they do, she'll fall. Back in her hotel suite, Elena sits by the window, the Capitol dome glowing in the distance. Leonard enters, exhausted but smiling. You did it. The bill is gaining traction. You might have just changed aviation forever. Elena exhales, her voice quiet but steady. I didn't do it alone. Every chant outside these walls carried me. Every voice lifted me higher. I only stood. Leonard studies her face. And standing is exactly what made history today. She gazes out the window, her reflection faint in the glass. History isn't the goal, dignity is. And until dignity is normal, I keep standing. Outside, the chants of protesters echo through the night. Justice, justice, justice. And Elena Carter, metal gleaming on her chest, prepares for the storms yet to come, knowing she will face them the same way she has faced them all. Standing tall. The morning after Elena Carter's congressional testimony, the nation wakes buzzing. News anchors replay her sharpest lines. Commentators debate the impact, and newspapers splash her photo across their front pages. Respect is not political becomes the phrase of the day, quoted on talk shows and printed on protest signs. In her D.C. hotel suite, Elena sits at the breakfast table, her uniform jacket draped neatly over a chair. She scrolls through messages on her phone, notes from fellow CEOs praising her courage, thank yous from passengers, letters from children saying they want to fly like Elena. One message makes her pause. You gave us a voice when we thought no one would listen. Leonard enters, holding 2 cups of coffee. He sets one in front of her and sits with a sigh. Congress is already drafting amendments to expand the reform bill. Cameras in cockpits, independent oversight boards, the works. You might have shifted the entire industry. Elena stirs her coffee slowly. Then the turbulence was worth it. But Leonard's face tightens. There's more. Reynolds hasn't stopped. He gave another interview last night, anonymous, but we know it was him. He called you a fraud in a blazer and claimed you staged everything for power. Elena exhales, steady but weary. Arrogance never quits. But neither do I. Across town, Mark Reynolds seethes in a rented apartment, his reputation in tatters but his pride burning. His allies sit around him, nervous. She's bigger than ever, Mark. Congress, media, the public. She's untouchable now. Mark slams his fist on the table. Nobody's untouchable. We just need the right strike. Not fists, not coffee. Something that stains her image forever. His eyes gleam with dangerous resolve. Back at Skylink headquarters, Elena addresses her employees via live stream. Thousands of staff tune in, pilots, attendants, mechanics. She speaks with calm authority. We are not just an airline. We are a promise to carry people with dignity. The reforms we're implementing are not about punishing. They're about protecting. If you wear this uniform, you carry trust. Abuse that trust, and you lose the privilege to fly. Applause ripples through the hangar where the broadcast is filmed. Attendants nod, pilots shift uneasily, but no one can deny her conviction. Later that day, Elena meets with advocacy groups at a downtown hall. The room is packed. Civil rights leaders, veterans, women's organizations. She listens more than she speaks, taking notes, nodding as people share stories of humiliation and disrespect in travel. When she finally stands, her voice is steady. What happened to me is not unique. It is the symptom of something deeper, but together we can change it, not just in aviation, but everywhere dignity is denied. Let this be the start, not the end. The crowd rises to its feet, chants filling the hall. Elena, Elena, Elena. That night, as she prepares for bed, Elena receives a call from her sister Maya. I saw your speech today. You're changing lives, Elena, but I'm worried. Every step higher, the target on your back gets bigger. Elena sits on the edge of her bed, her blouse folded neatly beside her. I know, but if I stop, what message does that send? That hate wins when it shouts loud enough? I can't allow that. Maya's voice softens. Just promise me you'll take care of yourself too. You're human, Elena. Don't forget it. Elena smiles faintly. I promise. But sleep doesn't come easily. Meanwhile, Mark's allies escalate their smear campaign. Fake articles appear online, alleging financial misconduct, mistreatment of staff, even fabricated stories of passengers complaining about her arrogance. Some gain traction before being debunked, fueling confusion. Leonard calls her early the next morning, his tone sharp. They're pushing harder. This isn't random trolls, it's organized. They're trying to wear you down, bury you under lies. Elena dresses calmly, fastening her jacket. Then we stay louder. Lies fade. Truth endures. Later, she appears live on national television, facing a panel of skeptical hosts. One asks pointedly, Ms. Carter, some say you're exploiting this incident for fame. How do you respond? Elena's gaze is unflinching. If demanding dignity makes me famous, then fame is just a byproduct. This isn't about me. It's about every person who has ever been told they don't belong. If my name carries their voices further, I'll carry it gladly. The clip spreads instantly, dismantling another wave of lies. But in his darkened apartment, Mark growls, smashing his remote against the wall. She twists everything. Every attack makes her stronger. But storms don't last forever. She'll crack, and I'll be waiting when she does. Back in her suite, Elena sits quietly by the window, the Capitol dome glowing in the distance. She whispers to herself, "Storms shift, but I'm still standing." And outside, the chants of protesters rise again, echoing through the night. Justice! Justice! Justice! The fight is far from over, but Elena Carter knows the skies belong to those who endure, and she is ready to keep flying higher. The following week begins with chaos on every news channel. Some anchors praise Elena Carter's congressional testimony as groundbreaking, while others echo smear campaigns, questioning her motives. One panel debates heatedly, is Elena Carter America's hero or a CEO exploiting outrage for power? Elena watches from her office in Riverton, her hands folded neatly on the desk. Leonard paces behind her, phone buzzing nonstop. "It's relentless," he mutters. "Every time you turn a victory into momentum, they counter with lies. They're trying to exhaust you." Elena exhales slowly, her posture steady. "They forget something, Leonard. Exhaustion doesn't ground me. It teaches me endurance." That afternoon, she meets with Skylink's leadership team. Executives gather around the long table, some energized, others wary. Elena speaks with quiet force. "We cannot let distractions derail us. Our reforms are not cosmetic. They are culture. We are launching independent oversight panels next month. Every incident, no matter how small, will be reviewed. Passengers and staff must know we listen." One executive frowns. "Elena, do you realize how radical this is? Other airlines will call us reckless." She meets his eyes without blinking. "Then let them. Leadership isn't about comfort, it's about courage." The room falls silent. No one dares challenge her again. Meanwhile, Mark Reynolds stews in his darkened apartment, his allies whispering around him. One nervously reports, "She's rolling out real reforms, Mark. People love her for it. Even our friends in the union are backing her now." Mark's face twists. "She humiliated me, and now she parades as a saint. If we can't kill her image, we kill her influence." "How?" one ally asks. Mark leans forward, voice low and venomous. "We make her the problem. We leak stories saying her reforms are destroying the airline. We turn her strength into weakness." Back at Skylink, employees line up outside Elena's office, eager to thank her. A flight attendant speaks with tears in her eyes. "I've dealt with harassment for years. Nobody cared. But now, I feel heard. You changed everything." Elena places a hand gently on her shoulder. No one should feel invisible in uniform. Not here, not anywhere. The gratitude fuels her, but late at night, the weight presses harder. Alone in her penthouse, she sits by the window, staring at the skyline. Her sister Maya calls, her voice gentle. "Elena, you sound tired." "I am," Elena admits softly. "Every battle I win just births another. Sometimes I wonder if it will ever end." Maya's tone sharpens. "It will, because you're forcing it to. Don't lose sight of that." Elena smiles faintly. "You always know how to steady me." The next day, newspapers explode with a new headline. Skylink CEO's reforms threaten airline stability. Anonymous sources claim pilots are leaving, costs are skyrocketing, and morale is collapsing. Leonard storms into her office, slamming the paper down. "This is false, Elena. Outright lies. But it's spreading." Elena scans the article calmly. Mark's handprints are all over it, but lies only sting if we leave them unanswered. Schedule an employee town hall, live stream it, let the truth come from within. That evening, thousands of Skylink employees tune in. Elena stands at the podium, her voice steady, her presence undeniable. "You've read stories saying our reforms are destroying us. Let me tell you the truth. Passenger trust has never been higher. Applications to join Skylink are flooding in. And morale? It's not collapsing, it's soaring, because dignity is now the standard." Cheers erupt from employees in the room, their voices echoing through the broadcast. The clip spreads instantly, dismantling the smear before it can take root. Across town, Mark watches furiously, his glass shattering in his hand. Every strike turns into her shield. But Elena doesn't think of him. She thinks of the employees who stood and cheered, of the passengers who now feel safer, of the children who write her letters. She whispers to herself that night, staring at her reflection, "Storms don't weaken me, they sharpen my wings." Outside, protesters march with candles, chanting into the night, "Justice! Justice! Justice!" And Elena Carter, battle-worn but unbroken, prepares for the turbulence still ahead, knowing that no matter how fierce the winds grow, she will keep standing. Because the sky belongs not to arrogance, but to endurance. The smear campaign doesn't stop. By the end of the week, new stories surface, claims that Elena Carter has been using company funds for personal security luxuries, rumors that she manipulates employees with fear. None of it is true, but the headlines spread fast, feeding doubt. Elena sits in her office at Skylink headquarters, the weight heavy on her shoulders. Leonard stands by the window, scrolling his phone furiously. They're doubling down. Talk radio, blogs, even mainstream outlets are picking it up. Mark Reynolds is fueling this fire. Elena folds her hands calmly on the desk. Then we don't fight the fire with panic. We fight it with water. Truth is always stronger, Leonard. Always. Later that afternoon, Elena hosts another press conference. Reporters pepper her with questions, some laced with venom. "Ms. Carter, are you enriching yourself under the guise of reform? Are pilots quitting because of your policies? Do you regret turning a personal incident into national spectacle?" Elena meets each gaze head-on, her voice steady. "Transparency is not optional at Skylink. Our financials are public, independently audited, and fully accountable. Pilots are not quitting in protest. They are signing pledges to uphold our new code of conduct. And to those who call this a spectacle, I say, dignity should never be quiet. If that makes it loud, so be it." The room buzzes. Some reporters nod, others scribble furiously. Her composure is undeniable, but the pressure is unrelenting. Across the city, Mark Reynolds watches from the shadows, seething. His allies grow restless. One mutters, "Every attack fails." She twists it into strength. Mark snarls, "That's because we've been hitting the surface. We need to dig deeper. We need something real." Back at headquarters, Elena receives a letter that shakes her. It's from a passenger, a teenage girl who once dreamed of becoming a pilot. She writes, "When I saw you stand up on that plane, I realized I could stand too. You gave me courage. Thank you." Elena reads the words slowly, her chest tightening. She whispers to herself, "This is why I keep standing." That evening, she addresses a rally outside headquarters. Thousands of supporters gather, candles glowing, chants rolling through the night air. Elena steps onto the stage, her silhouette strong against the lights. "They want you to believe lies," she says, her voice carrying. "They want you to doubt. But look around you. Truth is not in headlines, it's in these voices, in your chants, in your courage. This movement isn't mine, it's ours." The crowd erupts, chants thundering, "Justice! Justice! Justice!" But even in the roar of support, Elena feels the storm circling. That night, as she walks back to her penthouse, protesters cheer her name, but in the shadows, a figure watches silently. Mark Reynolds stands across the street, his eyes burning with venom. He mutters to himself, "She won't see it coming." Nobody flies forever. Inside, Elena removes her jacket and stares at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes are tired, but her resolve is steel. Maya calls, her voice warm but worried. "Elena, the whole country is watching you. You're carrying so much. Just promise me you'll take care of yourself too." Elena smiles faintly. "I promise, Maya, but storms don't wait for rest." The next morning, news breaks that Mark Reynolds has filed a lawsuit against Skylink, claiming wrongful termination and defamation. Headlines explode. "Coffee Captain fights back." Leonard barges into her office, furious. He's playing the victim now. He wants to drag this through the courts. Elena remains calm. Let him. Courts deal in evidence, and evidence is the one thing he can't twist. But even as she says it, she knows the trial will become another battlefield, one with higher stakes, where the truth must shine brighter than ever. Outside, chants rise again, louder each night. Elena Carter has become more than a CEO, more than a symbol. She has become a movement, and movements don't back down. They rise. The news cycle erupts the moment Mark Reynolds files his lawsuit. Talk shows buzz, headlines scream, and commentators debate endlessly. "Hero CEO or ruthless opportunist," one network teases. "Coffee Captain fights back," another declares. Elena Carter sits in the war room at Skylink headquarters, a large conference table covered in documents, laptops, and coffee cups. Leonard flips through the legal papers, his jaw tight. He's claiming wrongful termination, defamation, and emotional distress. He wants damages, Elena. Millions. Elena folds her hands calmly. He doesn't want damages, he wants a stage. Leonard sighs. Then we'll give him one. Courtrooms have judges. Judges care about facts. But Elena knows this won't be confined to court. Mark isn't fighting for justice, he's fighting for attention. Outside headquarters, protesters gather, some chanting in support of Elena, others holding signs accusing her of corruption. The divide is sharp, the tension thick. That evening, Elena appears on live television. The host asks directly, "Ms. Carter, how do you respond to Captain Reynolds' lawsuit?" Elena looks straight into the camera, her voice steady. "The truth is simple. Mark Reynolds humiliated a passenger in uniform. That passenger happened to be me. His behavior was unacceptable, and he was removed from duty. If defending dignity brings lawsuits, then so be it. I will stand in court the same way I stood on that plane, unshaken." The clip spreads instantly. Supporters cheer her strength, while critics dig deeper into their attacks. Across town, Mark watches the broadcast with a sneer. She thinks she can stare into a camera and win? Let's see how she stares down a jury. His lawyer shifts uncomfortably. "Mark, the evidence isn't in your favor. The videos, the witnesses." Mark slams the table. "I don't care about evidence. I care about making her bleed." Back at Skylink, Elena prepares her employees for the storm ahead. In a company-wide meeting, she addresses them directly. "This lawsuit isn't just against me. It's against everything we've built. But remember this, truth does not bend in courtrooms. It stands, just like we do." The employees erupt in applause, many standing in solidarity. Later that night, Elena retreats to her penthouse. Maya calls, her voice heavy with concern. "Elena, this trial could get ugly. They'll drag your name through the mud, twist everything. Are you ready for that?" Elena stares out the window at the glowing city. "I've already been dragged through mud, Maya. The only difference now is that the world is watching." The trial begins weeks later. Cameras crowd the courthouse steps, protesters line the sidewalks, chants thunder across the plaza. Elena arrives in a dark suit, her posture calm, her eyes steady. Reporters shout questions, but she doesn't flinch. Inside, the courtroom buzzes with tension. Mark sits at the plaintiff's table, his smirk back in place. He glares at Elena as though daring her to falter. The judge calls order, and opening statements begin. Mark's lawyer paints him as a victim, claiming his career was unfairly destroyed by a CEO hungry for publicity. He gestures toward Mark, portraying him as a man broken by false narratives. Then Elena's attorney rises, her voice sharp. "The plaintiff is not a victim. He is the architect of his own downfall. The evidence will show he humiliated a passenger, poured coffee on her, and mocked her in front of dozens of witnesses. That passenger was not just anyone, it was the CEO of this airline. But his arrogance blinded him to the truth. And today, that truth will ground him permanently." Murmurs ripple through the courtroom. Reporters scribble furiously. As witnesses testify, videos play on giant screens. The moment of spilled coffee, Mark's sneer, Elena's calm response, played again and again for the jury. Gasps echo, reporters whisper, and Mark's smirk fades. But he doesn't quit. Taking the stand, he insists, "It was an accident. I didn't mean it. She set me up." The courtroom buzzes, disbelief in the air. Elena sits silently, her expression unreadable, but her presence unshaken. That night, news clips flood the airwaves. Some pundits scoff at Mark's claims. Others wonder if doubt could sway the jury. In her hotel suite, Elena sits with Leonard, exhaustion etched into both their faces. He mutters, "He's desperate, he's lying through his teeth, but lies can sway hearts." Elena sips her tea calmly. "Then we remind them, truth doesn't whisper, it roars." Outside, protesters chant under the courthouse lights, their voices carrying through the night, "Justice, justice, justice!" And Elena Carter, steady as ever, prepares for the battle inside the courtroom, knowing that her fight is no longer just about one pilot, but about every voice that deserves respect. Because justice isn't decided by arrogance, it's decided by endurance. The second week of the trial begins with tension so thick it clings to the courthouse walls. Every day, cameras swarm the steps, protesters chant outside, and networks stream live coverage. For millions of viewers, this isn't just a lawsuit, it's a battle between arrogance and accountability. Inside the courtroom, Elena Carter sits at the defense table, her posture calm, her face unreadable. Across from her, Mark Reynolds glares with barely contained fury, his suit wrinkled, his pride burning hotter than ever. The judge calls the session to order. The defense may proceed with cross-examination. Elena's attorney rises, pacing slowly before the jury. Captain Reynolds, let's revisit the incident at the gate. Did you or did you not pour coffee on Ms. Carter? Mark shifts in his seat, sweat glistening at his temple. It was an accident. The attorney clicks a remote. The video plays again, the deliberate tilt of his cup, the smirk on his face, the words caught clearly. Accidents happen. Maybe you'll think twice before getting in my way again. Gasps ripple through the room. The attorney turns back. Is that your voice, Captain Reynolds? Mark swallows hard. Yes, but… No further questions. The courtroom murmurs, the jury scribbles furiously, and Mark's smirk falters. During recess, Leonard leans close to Elena, whispering, "We're winning. The evidence is airtight." Elena shakes her head slightly. Winning isn't enough. This has to mean something. For everyone watching. That afternoon, Elena herself takes the stand. The courtroom hushes as she adjusts the microphone. Cameras zoom in, reporters lean forward. "Ms. Carter," her attorney begins, "why did you choose to remain silent when the incident first occurred?" Elena's voice is calm but strong. "Because I wanted to see what arrogance does when it believes it's unchecked. I didn't reveal my identity until it mattered, until he had shown the world exactly who he was. It wasn't about revenge, it was about truth." The jury listens intently. Reporters scribble notes furiously. Her attorney continues, "And when you revealed you were the CEO, what did you hope to accomplish?" Elena meets the jury's eyes one by one. "I wanted every passenger, every employee, every child watching to know that dignity belongs to them, that no uniform, no badge, no arrogance can strip it away." Applause erupts from the gallery until the judge bangs his gavel for order. Even so, the energy lingers. Elena's words resonate far beyond the walls. Across town, Mark's allies gather in frustration. One mutters, "She's untouchable. The jury loves her, the public worships her. Every word she speaks becomes gold." Mark slams his fist on the table. "Then we make her words poison. If we can't win in court, we'll win in the streets, spread more lies, twist everything." But cracks show in his confidence. Even his allies begin to doubt. Back at the courthouse, closing arguments loom. Elena spends the evening in her hotel suite reviewing notes with Leonard. He paces, restless. "You know the jury's with us, you can see it in their faces. But Elena, I need to ask, what if they falter? What if arrogance blinds them?" Elena sips her tea calmly. "Then we appeal. Then we fight again." Justice doesn't rest on one verdict. It rests on persistence. Leonard stops pacing, staring at her. "You never tire, do you?" She smiles faintly. "I do. But storms don't wait for rest." The next morning, both sides deliver closing statements. Mark's lawyer pleads with the jury, framing him as a flawed man punished too harshly for one mistake. He paints Elena as a powerful CEO exploiting her position to crush a single pilot. Then the defense rises. Elena's attorney speaks with fire. "This case isn't about one cup of coffee. It's about what happens when arrogance in uniform thinks it can humiliate with impunity." Mark Reynolds wasn't punished for a mistake. He was punished for a pattern, for believing dignity was optional. Ms. Carter stood not just for herself, but for everyone who has been silenced by arrogance. And now, it is your turn to stand. The jury files out. Hours pass, tension mounting. Outside, protesters chant relentlessly, "Justice! Justice! Justice!" Finally, the jury returns. The four-person stands, voice steady. "We find in favor of the defendant. All claims of wrongful termination and defamation are dismissed." The courtroom erupts. Supporters cheer, reporters sprint for the doors, cameras flash wildly. Mark collapses into his chair, his face ashen, his career reduced to ashes. Elena remains seated, her posture calm, her face serene. She whispers softly, "Truth endures." That night, crowds gather outside Skylink headquarters, candles glowing, chants rolling through the streets. Elena steps onto the balcony, raising her hand for silence. "This verdict is not just mine, it is ours. It proves that arrogance cannot hide behind lies, that dignity cannot be silenced by smears. Today we stood, tomorrow we keep standing." The chants swell again, louder than ever. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" And Elena Carter, tired but unbroken, knows this storm has passed. But she also knows more storms will come, and she will be ready. Because justice doesn't end in a verdict. It begins there. The verdict spreads like wildfire across the nation. By dawn, every headline screams the same truth. Elena Carter wins. News anchors call it a landmark case, commentators hail it as justice in uniform, and supporters flood the streets in celebration. But for Elena, the morning after feels quieter than the chaos suggests. She sits in her penthouse kitchen, sipping tea slowly, the city buzzing far below. Leonard enters, his face drawn with exhaustion but lit by relief. "We did it, Elena. The jury shut him down. Mark Reynolds is finished." Elena sets her cup down, her voice calm. "No, his career is finished. But arrogance? That fight is never finished." Leonard nods, knowing she's right. The trial was one battle, not the war. Outside, crowds gather at Skylink headquarters, waving signs, chanting her name. Reporters swarm, eager for comment. Elena steps onto the balcony, her voice carrying over the cheers. "This verdict was not a victory for me. It was a victory for dignity. For every passenger who has been humiliated, for every employee who has been silenced, for every child who has been told they don't belong. This was not about one captain or one airline. It was about respect. And respect has no borders." The chants swell. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" That evening, Elena appears on a primetime news special. The host leans forward, eyes sharp. "Ms. Carter, what does this verdict mean for you personally?" Elena's gaze is steady. "Personally, it means nothing. But for the movement, it means everything. It tells people that arrogance can be challenged and defeated." The host presses. "And what about Mark Reynolds? Do you forgive him?" Elena pauses, choosing her words carefully. "Forgiveness is not mine to give. Accountability is. He faced it. That's enough." The clip spreads instantly, sparking debate. Some praise her composure, others demand harsher words. But Elena doesn't waver. Meanwhile, Mark sits alone in his apartment, blinds drawn, bottles scattered. His phone buzzes endlessly. Calls from lawyers, messages from reporters, jeers from strangers online. He ignores them all, his eyes hollow. For the first time, the man who thought himself untouchable feels utterly grounded. At Skylink, Elena pushes forward. Reforms accelerate, cameras installed, oversight panels convened, training programs rolled out. Employees feel the shift tangibly. A mechanic shakes her hand one morning. "Ms. Carter, I've worked here 20 years. This is the first time I feel proud to wear this logo." Elena smiles softly. "Then it's worth every battle." But not everyone is convinced. At a private industry meeting, rival airline executives whisper about her. "She's turning aviation into politics. She's dangerous. People love her too much. If this keeps up, she'll change the whole industry." And Elena intends to. One evening, as she leaves headquarters, a group of protesters approaches. Not supporters this time, but critics. They hold signs reading "Carter Circus, keep politics off planes." A few shout insults. Elena stops, facing them calmly. "You don't have to agree with me, but you can't silence me, and you can't silence respect." The exchange goes viral, her calmness praised even in confrontation. Later that night, she calls her sister Maya. "Some days, I wonder if the storms will ever pass." Maya's voice is warm. "Maybe they don't pass. Maybe you just learn to fly through them." And Elena? "You're flying higher than anyone." Elena smiles faintly, staring out at the city lights. "Then I'll keep flying." For all of them. But in the shadows, whispers linger. Mark may be broken, but his bitterness hasn't died. A former ally visits him, urging him to let go. Mark mutters, eyes dark, "She may have won this round, but storms don't end, and neither do I." Back in her penthouse, Elena removes her jacket and hangs it neatly, her nightly ritual. She stares at her reflection in the mirror, metal gleaming faintly on her chest. Her eyes are tired, but her posture is unyielding. She whispers softly, "One more storm, Captain. Always one more." Outside, chants rise again, echoing through the city streets. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" And Elena Carter, steady as ever, braces for the battles ahead, knowing the verdict was not the end, but another beginning. Because justice doesn't rest. It keeps flying. The days following the verdict blur into a whirlwind of celebration and scrutiny. Supporters hail Elena Carter as a hero, while critics grow louder, insisting she has turned the skies into a political battleground. Elena doesn't allow herself to bask in victory. She knows the fight is far from over. At Skylink headquarters, she meets with her leadership team. Charts line the screens showing rising passenger trust, employee satisfaction, and record-breaking ticket sales. Leonard gestures to the numbers. You've done it, Elena. The verdict silenced doubts and the reforms are working. Skylink isn't just surviving, it's thriving. Elena studies the data calmly. Numbers aren't the finish line, Leonard. Culture is. If arrogance still exists in our ranks, then our work isn't done. The room falls silent. Her determination leaves no room for complacency. Meanwhile, Mark Reynolds stews in isolation. His apartment is a cave of bitterness, blinds drawn, empty bottles littering the floor. The television blares Elena's speeches, her face unavoidable. He hurls the remote, shattering the screen. She ruined me, he mutters, and now she parades like a saint. His phone buzzes. It's one of his few remaining allies. Mark, you need to move on. The world's moved past you. Mark's jaw tightens. Then I'll make them remember. At the same time, Elena receives an invitation to speak at a national leadership summit. The event will gather CEOs, lawmakers, and activists under one roof. Leonard hands her the envelope. This is huge. They want you as the keynote speaker. It's not just about aviation anymore, it's about leadership. Elena reads the invitation carefully. Then I'll speak, but not about me, about what dignity demands from leadership. The summit arrives days later. The stage is grand, the hall packed with thousands. Cameras broadcast live nationwide. Elena steps to the podium, her uniform crisp, her medal gleaming faintly. Her voice carries across the hall. Leadership is not about power, it is about responsibility. When arrogance humiliates, leadership restores. When lies spread, leadership tells the truth. And when storms rise, leadership stands tall. The audience rises in a standing ovation. Social media explodes with clips of her speech, hashtags trending worldwide. But the brighter her star shines, the darker Mark's bitterness grows. Watching the broadcast from a bar, he mutters, "She thinks she's untouchable, but storms can ground anyone." That night, Elena returns to her hotel suite, exhaustion pressing down. Maya calls, her voice warm but concerned. "Elena, I saw your speech. It was powerful, but please, don't forget you're human. You can't fight every storm alone." Elena smiles faintly. "I'm not alone, Maya. Every chant outside, every voice that refuses silence, they fly with me." But in the quiet, fatigue gnaws at her. She sits by the window staring at the city lights, whispering to herself, "One more storm. Always one more." The next day, tabloids launch a new wave of attacks. Carter's circus expands. Is she leading a company or a cult? Conspiracy theorists flood the internet, claiming her reforms are bankrupting Skylink. None of it is true, but the noise grows louder. Leonard bursts into her office, exasperated. "They're trying to drown you again. Lies, smears, half-truths, it's endless." Elena sips her tea calmly. "Then we stay louder. The truth doesn't whisper." That evening, she appears on live television once more. The host asks sharply, "Miss Carter, critics say you've turned this movement into self-promotion. How do you respond?" Elena meets the camera head-on. "If standing for dignity looks like promotion, then I hope every leader promotes it. This isn't about me, it's about everyone who's ever been told they don't belong, and I will never apologize for standing with them." The clip goes viral, dismantling the smear within hours. Across town, Mark slams his fist against the bar counter. Every time she speaks, she grows stronger, but nobody flies forever. She'll fall, and when she does, I'll be there. Back in her suite, Elena removes her jacket, hanging it neatly as always. She stares at her reflection in the mirror, her eyes tired but unbroken. Outside, protesters march with candles, their chants echoing through the night. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" And Elena Carter, weary but resolute, braces for the next battle. Because she knows the truth. The higher you fly, the fiercer the storms. But storms don't break her. They lift her higher. The weeks after the summit are a blur of headlines and hashtags. Elena Carter's speech, "Leadership is not about power, it is about responsibility," circulates like wildfire. Schools play it in classrooms, advocacy groups print it on posters, and late-night hosts quote it in their monologues. But the brighter her star shines, the more relentless the backlash becomes. Leonard storms into her office one morning, his phone buzzing non-stop. "Elena, it's worse this time. They're pushing fake audits claiming our reforms cost millions. Investors are jittery. Mark Reynolds may not be leading it himself, but his fingerprints are everywhere." Elena looks up from her desk, her posture calm. "Let them push. Fear feeds lies. We'll counter with facts." She calls a press conference that afternoon. Standing before cameras, she holds up official reports. Here are the numbers. Passenger trust has risen by 28%. Complaints are down by nearly half. Applications to join Skylink have tripled. These aren't losses, they're gains. The truth is not in rumors. It's here, in black and white. Reporters murmur, scribbling furiously. The clip spreads, stabilizing the investors within hours. Still, Elena knows the pattern. Every victory births a new storm. Meanwhile, Mark Reynolds sits in his darkened apartment, bitterness consuming him. He watches her press conference with narrowed eyes. She counters everything. She never bends. But no pilot flies forever. She'll break. His allies shift nervously. One mutters, "She's stronger than we thought. Every attack backfires." Mark's voice hardens. "Then we stop playing games. We find something real, something that sticks." Back at Skylink, Elena meets with employees in a hangar, surrounded by jets. Mechanics, attendants, and pilots stand shoulder to shoulder. She speaks directly, her voice carrying over the hum of engines. "They say our reforms are costly, but let me tell you what's costly. Lawsuits from arrogance, broken trust, lost lives. Dignity doesn't drain us, it strengthens us, and we will keep proving it, flight after flight." The hangar erupts in applause. Even skeptical pilots nod, swayed by her resolve. That night, Elena walks through the streets near her penthouse. Protesters line the sidewalks, candles glowing, chants echoing, "Justice! Justice! Justice!" She stops, speaking softly to them. "This isn't my fight alone, it's ours." And every chant carries me higher. The crowd roars, their voices shaking the night. But danger brews in the shadows. Mark's allies leak a cache of manipulated documents to the press, painting Elena as a dictatorial CEO silencing dissent. Though quickly debunked, the story dominates headlines for days, sowing doubt. Leonard slams the papers onto her desk. They won't stop. Even when the lies collapse, the noise lingers. People start to wonder if smoke means fire. Elena remains calm. Then we remind them, smoke is not fire. Truth burns brighter. She appears on a primetime interview facing hostile questions. "Miss Carter, are you silencing critics within your company?" Her gaze is steady. "I am silencing nothing. Criticism is welcome. Arrogance is not. And if some confuse the two, that says more about them than about me." The clip dismantles the smear overnight. Supporters flood social media praising her clarity. But Mark grows more desperate. Sitting alone in his cluttered apartment, he whispers to himself, "She wins every round. But storms don't last. When the cameras fade, she'll stand alone. And then, she'll fall." Back in her suite, Elena unwinds after another day of battles. She hangs her jacket neatly, stares at her reflection in the mirror, and whispers, "One more storm, Captain. Always one more." Her phone buzzes. It's Maya. "I saw your interview. You were brilliant. But Elena, you sound tired." Elena smiles faintly. "I am. But tired isn't broken. And tired doesn't stop me." Maya's voice softens. "Then promise me this. When the skies finally clear, you'll rest. Even just for a little while." Elena looks out at the glowing skyline, her eyes firm. "I promise. When the skies clear." Outside, chants rise again, echoing through the night. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" And Elena Carter, weary but unyielding, prepares for the storms yet to come, knowing that every gust of resistance only proves one thing. The fight isn't about her anymore. It's about the skies themselves, and she intends to keep them open for all. The morning breaks with sirens echoing faintly in the distance. Elena Carter wakes early, pulling on her uniform jacket, the metal pinned neatly as always. Outside, the city still hums with her name. Elena the reformer, Elena the fighter, Elena the CEO who wouldn't bend. But as she prepares for another day, Leonard barges into her office, his face pale. He holds up a tablet, the screen flashing headlines. Anonymous whistleblower claims Elena Carter rigged internal reports. Elena scans the article quickly. "Fabricated?" "Completely," Leonard answers, voice strained. "But the timing is brutal. They've lined up pundits, fake experts. It looks convincing." Elena sets the tablet down. "Mark Reynolds again." Leonard nods grimly. He's desperate, but desperate men can still do damage. By noon, the story dominates the airwaves. Talk shows buzz, anchors question her integrity, critics rejoice. On social media, the smear spreads like wildfire. Elena calls an emergency press conference. Cameras swarm as she steps to the podium, her posture unflinching. You've seen the headlines. Let me tell you the truth. Every report at Skylink is independently audited. These so-called leaks are fabrications designed to distract us from progress. Lies take flight quickly, but they always crash, and the truth will keep flying. The statement steadies supporters, but the smear lingers. Elena knows this storm won't fade overnight. That evening, she visits Skylink's largest hangar, where hundreds of employees wait. Mechanics wipe grease from their hands, attendants fold arms, pilots shift uneasily. Elena climbs a platform, her voice carrying across the space. They say our numbers are lies, but look around you. Passenger trust is rising. Applications are flooding in. Complaints are down. These aren't statistics, they're people. They're proof, and proof doesn't bend to whispers. The crowd erupts in applause. A mechanic shouts, "We've got your back, Ms. Carter." Others cheer, their solidarity drowning out the doubts. But across town, Mark Reynolds watches from a dim motel room, fury twisting his face. She turns every attack into fuel, but no one flies forever. Sooner or later, she'll come down. His allies shift nervously, but Mark's obsession blinds him. Back in her penthouse, Elena receives a call from Maya. "Elena, you're stronger than anyone I know, but I worry. Each battle takes a piece of you." Elena smiles faintly, staring at her reflection in the window. "Maybe, but every chant outside gives me a piece back. I'm not flying alone, Maya. They're with me." The next day, Elena is invited to address a university auditorium packed with students. She speaks with quiet fire. They call dignity a luxury. They call respect optional. But you know better. You live it every day when someone doubts you because of who you are, how you look, where you come from. Let me tell you, your place is not given to you. You claim it. You stand for it. And when storms rise, you don't bend. You fly higher. The students rise to their feet, cheering, chanting her name. Clips flood the internet, drowning out the smear campaign with fresh energy. Still, the shadows stir. That night, Leonard receives a tip. Mark Reynolds has been meeting with a small group of extremists, men angry at Elena's movement, determined to restore order. Leonard rushes to her penthouse, his face grave. "Elena, this isn't just about lies anymore. There's talk of threats, real threats." Elena listens calmly, but her eyes harden. "Then let them talk. Threats are just wind, and storms don't ground me," Leonard presses. "Elena, I'm serious. We need extra security. You're not just a CEO anymore. You're a symbol. Symbols draw fire." She exhales slowly. "Then we shield not just me, but everyone standing with us. If they want to strike, they'll see how strong this movement has become." Outside, the chants grow louder each night. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" And Elena Carter, weary but unbroken, steels herself for what's coming. She knows the final storm is gathering, darker than any before. Because Mark Reynolds isn't finished. And neither is she. The skies belong to truth, and she intends to defend them, no matter how fierce the turbulence. The final storm breaks on a rainy evening in Riverton. Thunder rumbles above the city as protesters gather outside Skylink headquarters, their chants echoing off glass towers. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" Inside, Elena Carter prepares for what she knows will be her most important speech yet. The smear campaigns, the lawsuit, the fabricated leaks, all of it has led to this moment. Tonight, she will address not just her company, not just her city, but the entire nation. Leonard paces nervously in her office. "Elena, the networks are calling this historic. Every major outlet is carrying your address live, but Mark's people are stirring again. Online threats, calls for chaos. Are you sure you want to stand out there tonight?" Elena fastens her jacket, the metal gleaming faintly against the fabric. "Storms don't scare me, Leonard. They remind me why I stand." At 8 p.m., she steps onto the balcony overlooking the plaza. The rain falls in sheets, but the crowd doesn't waver. Thousands hold candles under umbrellas, their chants rising through the storm. Cameras zoom in, broadcasting her every move to millions. Elena raises her hand. The chants fade. Her voice carries over the rain. "Months ago, a captain poured coffee on me and told me I didn't belong. That moment was meant to humiliate me, to silence me. But instead, it gave me a voice. And it gave you one too." The crowd roars, chants thundering again. She waits, then continues. "They tried to bury us in lies. They tried to smear us, to break us, to convince us dignity was optional. But every lie only proved our strength. Every smear only sharpened our truth. And tonight, we stand taller than ever. The plaza erupts, the chants shaking the night. Elena! Elena! Elena! Across the city, Mark Reynolds watches from a dingy apartment, his fists trembling. She stole everything from me, he mutters. His allies glance nervously, but even they can see it. His fight is already lost. Back on the balcony, Elena lifts her chin, her voice unwavering. This isn't about one airline. This isn't about one courtroom. This is about every person who has ever been told they don't belong. And to them, I say, you do belong. Your dignity is not negotiable. Your respect is not optional. And no storm, no smear, no arrogance will ever take that from you again. The crowd explodes into cheers. Some cry, some chant, some hold their candles higher. Cameras capture every second, beaming it across the nation. Leonard steps beside her, whispering, "You've won, Elena. You've changed everything." She shakes her head slightly, her eyes still on the crowd. Not everything, but enough to prove the fight is worth it. At that moment, the rain eases. Clouds part slightly, revealing a patch of starry sky. The candles below glow brighter, flickering like constellations. Elena lifts her medal from her chest, holding it high. This medal was given to me, but it belongs to you, to every voice that refused silence, to every hand that held a candle, to every chant that rose against arrogance. This is not the end. This is the beginning. And together, we will keep flying higher. The roar from the plaza is deafening. Protesters chant louder, their voices echoing through the city streets. Justice! Justice! Justice! Across the nation, people watch. Families in living rooms, workers in break rooms, students in dorms. They see a woman who turned humiliation into hope, who fought storms with unshakable resolve, who proved that dignity belongs to everyone. Mark Reynolds turns away from the screen, collapsing into his chair. His voice is barely a whisper now. She won. She really won. Because the truth is undeniable. Arrogance had lost. Elena Carter, tired but unbroken, stands before the world, rain still dripping from her hair, her voice carrying like thunder. Justice has found its voice, she declares, and it will not be silenced again. The crowd answers with a roar that rattles the night, a chorus of voices proving that this movement is bigger than one woman, one company, one storm. The storm has passed, and justice has won.